Welcome. Listing Notice 3 lists activities that require an environmental authorization prior to their commencement in specific identified geographical areas. Unfortunately, many of these identified geographical areas are not widely known, so it is the aim of this series to improve our understanding of these important areas. In this video, we explain international conventions, biosphere reserves, heritage sites, watercourses and wetlands. Welcome. My name is Sean McGregor of ecoleges Environmental Consultants based in Mpumalanga, South Africa, and we're on a mission to empower all South Africans to protect their environment through the correct interpretation and application of our environmental legislation. So if you want to learn how our environmental law applies to you and avoid unnecessary and costly mistakes, if you want to increase your knowledge and skills to reduce your reliance on external consultants, if you're in need of mentorship, or you just want to earn some CPD points for your professional registration, then you'll want to subscribe to this channel. You can do that by swiping your mouse over the icon to the bottom right hand side of your screen. Don't forget to click on the bell notification icon so that you can be notified the moment we upload a new video. And if you know of anyone else who can benefit from these videos, we would appreciate your support in helping to spread the message by liking them. Thank you. We continue with the same series, Identified Geographical Areas, and the title of this video is International Conventions and More. Let's start with international conventions, and we'll continue to use the same example that we have in our previous videos. That is listed activity 6 of listing notice 3, which reads the development of resorts, lodges, hotels, tourism or hospitality facilities that sleeps 15 people or more. Now, if you are in Gauteng, for example, then you can trigger this activity if you are in, among other areas, sites or areas identified in terms of an international convention. Listing Notice 3 defines sites or areas listed in terms of an international convention as any area and its buffer, unless specifically defined, of 5 kilometers extending from its listed boundary, listed in terms of an international convention, but does not include World Heritage Sites. Why? Because World Heritage Sites are listed in terms of an international convention. They're actually declared in terms of the World Heritage Convention Act, Act number 49 of 1999. So they would qualify. However, World Heritage Sites are covered elsewhere within the category of protected areas. The definition goes on, and shall include but not be limited to the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands. So it's great that they identify a convention so that we have something to work with. They also leave it open so that we can take into consideration conventions that we subscribe to in the future. So you will need to keep track. And one potential source is the website for the Center for Environmental Rights. They do have a list of international conventions on their website. However, it isn't exhaustive. I could not find the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands within that list. And not all those conventions will be applicable to this identified geographical area in terms of listing notice 3. There are 27 Ramsar sites in South Africa, that is sites designated as wetlands of international importance, and they can be found on the Protected Areas Register, which is published on the department's website. Yes, Ramsar sites are not formally protected or legally declared as protected areas, however they are conservation areas, and the register includes both protected areas and conservation areas. The examples of conservation areas provided on that register include botanical gardens, biosphere reserves and Ramsar sites. A conservation area is not legally protected, but it is mainly and responsibly managed for biodiversity conservation. Another useful tool, particularly if you are looking for delineated or designated boundaries, is the Ramsar website itself, www.ramsar.org. Then there are biosphere reserves. If you are in the Free State, for example, then you can also trigger listed activity 6 of listing notice 3. If you are in, among other areas within 10 kilometers of national parks or World Heritage Sites, or 5 kilometers from any other protected area identified in terms of NEMPA, or from the core area of a biosphere reserve. Now, listing notice 3 in its reference to protected areas includes the core area of a biosphere reserve and its buffer. Now, biosphere reserves are not legally or formally protected by law, but they are recognized as conservation areas. A biosphere reserve is a new kind of conservation area. It was born in 1971 when the International Coordinating Council of UNESCO's Man in the Biosphere program convened for the first time. Biosphere reserves represent a global network. There are over 560 biosphere reserves in more than 100 countries. A global network of model regions that are established within the framework of UNESCO's Man and the Biosphere program to pursue innovative approaches in research, monitoring, education and capacity building, management and in implementing model projects for sustainable development, which meets today's key environmental challenges, specifically climate change mitigation, adaptation to climate change, and the conservation of biological diversity. Biosphere reserves are effectively learning sites for sustainable development, and the idea is to transfer the approaches developed in these biosphere reserves to other regions where they can be used as instruments for mitigating or adapting to climate change and conserving biological diversity. These approaches go far beyond nature conservation. They are actually suitable as models for a sustainable way of life, safeguarding a livable earth for our children's children. South Africa has 10 biosphere reserves. They include Kogelberg, Cape West Coast, the Waterberg, Kruger Canyons, Cape Winelands, Vembe, the Gerrits Cluster, Magaliesberg, the Garden Route, and Marico. Now, these biosphere reserves can be found either on the Protected Areas Register. Remember, they are conservation areas after all, and the register or the link to the register is on the homepage of the department's website. Alternatively, you could also visit UNESCO's website, www.en.unesco.org. Listing Notice 3 refers to both World Heritage Sites and then all heritage sites proclaimed in terms of the National Heritage Resources Act 25 of 1999. Let's return to our example, listed activity 6 of listing notice 3. If you are in the Northwest Province, then you can trigger this activity if you are in, among other areas, all heritage sites proclaimed in terms of the National Heritage Resources Act. As described earlier, World Heritage Sites differ from other heritage sites proclaimed in terms of the National Heritage Resources Act because they are identified as protected areas in Section 9 of NEMPA and actually proclaimed under a separate act, the World Heritage Convention Act 49 of 1999. It is possible to find graded and ungraded heritage sites using the web-based National Environmental Screening Tool. The link is hosted on the homepage of the department's website, www.environment.gov.za. However, the South African Heritage Resources Agency, that is SARA, has been mandated with maintaining a register of heritage resources. And the database of this inventory, comprising heritage sites, objects and resources, is housed on an online platform called SARIS, the South African Heritage Resources Information System, www.saris.sara.org.za. It is the digital repository of heritage resources information in the country. So a person will need to register on the SARIS system and then learn how to use that tool, including how to upload their project information. It is important to inform SARA of any project that is to be undertaken so that they have the opportunity to inform you if the project area is going to affect a heritage site. And then finally, also included within the list of potential identified geographical areas are watercourses and wetlands. Returning to our example, if you are in KwaZulu-Natal, then you can trigger listed activity 6 of listing notice 3 if you are in, among other areas within a watercourse or a wetland or within 100 meters from the edge of a watercourse or wetland. Listing Notice 3 defines a watercourse as a river or a spring, a natural channel in which water flows regularly or intermittently, a lake or a dam, and a wetland or a pan. And reference to a watercourse includes its bed and banks. I recommend you watch our previous video entitled, "What is the Edge of a Watercourse?" So apart from performing a site inspection to confirm the presence of a watercourse or a wetland, it is also possible to access spatial data sets using a link on SANBI's BGIS homepage to the South African Inventory of Inland Aquatic Ecosystems. Alternatively, you could also use the web-based National Environmental Screening Tool. It does include rivers and wetlands as a part of the data set which informs the aquatic biodiversity theme. Now, if you're on the screening tool and also the BGIS website, you'll notice, particularly in Map Viewer, reference to FEPA rivers and wetlands. So what are FEPA rivers and wetlands? So FEPA stands for Freshwater Ecosystem Priority Areas, and you'll also come across the term NFEPA, National Freshwater Ecosystem Priority Areas. The latter, strictly speaking, refers to the name of the project, whereas FEPA maps are one of the outputs or outcomes of the NFEPA project. These freshwater ecosystem priority areas are basically strategic spatial priorities that are required for conserving South Africa's freshwater ecosystems and supporting sustainable use of our water resources. Now, the FEPA maps identify how many watercourses and wetlands and which ones should remain in a good condition, that is an A or B ecological category, meaning it is either natural and unmodified or has very few modifications. Strictly speaking, FEPAs should feed into the development of critical biodiversity area maps involving biodiversity sector plans and bioregional plans. So although a FEPA may not directly trigger a listed activity, it may indirectly by its inclusion into a CBA. Otherwise, the listed activity is triggered by the mere presence or proximity to a watercourse or wetland. And the fact that it might be a FEPA river or wetland must be taken into consideration during the assessment of impacts. And that's it. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. I really hope it has been useful, helpful, worth your while. If you have joined our membership program, then you will receive an additional video. Once again, we return to the computer to show you exactly how to find these Ramsar sites, Biosphere Reserves, heritage sites, FEPA rivers and wetlands. If you haven't joined our membership program yet, then check it out on Patreon. Otherwise, if you're looking for a consultant to help you with the once-off project, you're welcome to visit our website. Check out our previous video. We explained EMFs and STFs. What are they exactly? The next time we leave the series, we look into the scope and validity period of environmental authorizations. Don't miss it. Otherwise, subscribe, click on the bell notification icon. If you do like the video, like it. We appreciate the support. Keep strong and God bless.